All right, words and expressions commonly misused. Let's go through the C's. So the word can, it means am able, or is able, or are able. I am able. I can go to the store. I am able to go to the store. He can go to the store. He is able to go to the store. We are able to go to the store. We can go to the store. It's not to be used as a substitute for may. May and might are resemblances. They're essentially synonyms, but can is not. And these are some words that might come up in domestic type situations where tone might be misinterpreted. So just keeping that in mind. Clear communication is not only helpful for grades in a lot of these social sciences and humanities classes, but it's also helpful for relationships. Clear communication. So just to know that can is not to be used as a substitute for may. I might go to the store. Might go to the store. I can go to the store. You might have a misinterpretation for some domestic issues like, hey honey, go grab some milk. So or tone, or a person might misinterpret it and think that you're being snarky or being gruff or being you know or being dismissive, etc. So that's an example. Case, a concise Oxford Dictionary begins its definition of this word: the usual state of affairs. In these two senses, the word is usually unnecessary. So the word case. So look at the left side, bad. Right side, good. In many cases, the rooms were poorly ventilated. Just say it directly. Many of the rooms are poorly ventilated. It has rarely been the case that any mistake has been made. Few mistakes have been made. So especially in writing, you want to truncate and just keep things real clear and concise. And in case of the word case, and with regards to the word case, generally you don't need that word. So certainly used indiscriminately by some writers, much as others use very to intensify any and every statement, and mannerism of this kind bad in speech is even worse in writing. So I definitely, like intensifying words, and I like using, fun adverbs and adjectives, and I like using colorful words just in my speech. However, when it comes to writing, I think that it's important to be as direct as you possibly can. You can be somewhat colorful here and there, but it should be more as a garnish than as your main course, especially when you're trying to garner respect as sort of an expert on this topic. Even though you're a student, you still want to be seen as a formal expert on the topic, a confident formal expert. And you can use the word certainly, I believe, very sparingly. I would use the word certainly perhaps in the conclusion when I've made a bunch of points that support an argument, and then I re-emphasize that point in different terms, and I add the word certainly. Or if I'm talking about certainly Walt Whitman you know doesn't love war, doesn't love every aspect of war. Um, and that's that's better. Yeah, so there's a poem that we look at, and we write an essay for, and it's Walt Whitman drum taps in other videos. So in the conclusion, I might say, certainly Walt Whitman doesn't love every single aspect of war, period. However, comma, he focuses you know um, largely on the positive community forming aspects of war, um, such as families getting together to fight for a single common cause, etc. So you can use the word certainly very sparingly, and usually in a very specific situation or venue with regards to academic writing. So character. Acts of a hostile character, bad. Hostile acts, better. So yeah, fewer words, a lot of times you don't need the word character, acts of a hostile character, etc. Claim, lay claim to. He claimed that he was the sole surviving heir. This could be vague because the word he is, it's two times very close together. A little bit confusing. It's still pretty clear if there's no other he's in the room, or no other he in the dialogue, in the milieu of what we're discussing. However, Strunk later acknowledges claimed to be would be better, and I totally agree with that. He claimed to be the sole surviving heir. Extremely clear, especially when comparing it to this sentence. He claimed that he was the sole surviving heir. Clever. This word has been greatly overused. It is best restricted to ingenuity displayed in small matters. Yeah, I mean, this seems like a personal, you know, axe that he's grinding here. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to be too effusive, meaning too complimentary, um, especially when it comes to academic writing. Again, I'm trying to connect the elements of style with regards to academic writing in general. But yeah, just in terms of writing, communication, etc., you don't want to use that word, overuse that word clever. You want to use it when it fits, when something, a method to solve a problem is indeed clever. And usually it is smallish matters, like a clever way to um, to fix a wobbly desk. You know, to compare to, I like this one a lot. To compare to is to point out or imply resemblances between objects regarded as essentially of different order, and to compare with is mainly to point out differences. So to compare to is to connect them. So A to B. That's how I would try to remember it. I like to focus on memory. How am I going to remember this? So if I'm reading this stuff as I'm reading it, how am I going to file it in my brain so I can try to recall it later? So compare to, you're thinking like A to B. So A to B to C to D. So compare to implies resemblances. Life has been compared to a pilgrimage. Life has been compared to a drama. Life has been compared to a battle. So they're connecting them, compare to. You link A to B to C to D all the way to Z, right? Compared with is mainly to point out differences between objects regarded as essentially of the same order. So they're going to be similar in terms of quote unquote order. So they're similar type of family, etc. But they're pointing out differences. So compared with this. So you're sort of sitting with something on the couch, but they're different. They're in different places. So you're pointing out the differences. Congress may be compared with the British Parliament. Paris may be compared with modern London. So very good distinction. I don't know if many teachers are going to mind this. It's very granular, but some professors and instructors are absolutely brilliant, and they are just precise, concise, and they're extremely well read, and they will know these distinctions. And a lot of this stuff, you learn or you relearn. Even though I read this book way back in the past when I was younger, just to relearn this stuff is really helpful. And what's challenging about putting on a lot of these English videos and writing and whatnot is it's very subjective. It's not like math or computer science, where there's one answer, or there's a host of answers, but they're specific answers. So I think a lot of it is just knowing that sometimes you'll have a teacher that's really strict, that's going to nitpick on these things, and others, aren't as strict or aren't going to nitpick on these things. But it's good to know. The more you know, the more confident you can be as a writer as you keep plugging away, writing, rewriting, proofreading, rewriting, and getting help and getting your rough drafts looked at before they're due, before the final draft is due, and get it looked at by your teacher, if possible. On Quora.com, I read an answer this morning, and there was a student that got he garnered perfect marks, and he was a mechanical engineer, and he garnered excellent marks as a mechanical engineer, and that's one of the things he mentioned that I always mention with regards to my studies as well. Is you want to finish your essays early and then go run to your teacher and try and see if you can get some notes. You're not going to surprise them and wow them. Um, it's not that you won't get an A if you surprise them, but you're not in it for the surprise. You're in it for the grade. You're trying to earn a good grade. So teachers like that, and they like to see the progress that you're making and just the effort that you're making. And it also gives you a chance to go see them outside of class, office hours. Um, so there are multiple reasons why you would want to finish your paper early and run it to your teacher. All right, the last C, consider. Not followed by as when it means believed to be. I consider him thoroughly competent. I consider him thoroughly competent. The lecturer considered Cromwell first as soldier and second as administrator, where considered means examined. The lecturer examined Cromwell first as soldier, or the lecturer discussed Cromwell first as soldier and second as administrator. All of these very helpful. Some might be less helpful or less clear, but again, it's all about practice, and you will get better if you just keep plugging away. All right, we will do D's in our next video. Thank you very much.